Hey everyone! Welcome back to your favorite pirate crew. Today we're going to be talking about Zoro revealing the Akuma no Mi of his swords. If you'd like to see more about One Piece in our channel, please leave your thumbs up and subscribe to join a pirate crew. But pirates, before we continue with the video, I ask that you already subscribe to the channel. That way you can join the pirate crew, earn a devil fruit, or master your favorite haki. It would also be a great big deal of help to our crew if you did leave your thumbs up on today's video, so that we together can become Yonkos. Alright, this should be boring enough, let's continue with the video. Zoro's powers as a swordsman seem to be far from his prime, but we'll probably see a little more of him before this moment arrives. The end of One Piece is just a few years away from becoming real, and we may possibly see a lot more of the character during fights. And among them, there is a lot of talk about the swordsman having an Akuma no Mi. But after all, which Akuma no Mi would best suit his character? Would it be something related to him, or to his swords? Let's talk about it in today's video. Noah Zoro, also known as Pirate Hunter Zoro, is the fighter of the Straw Hat Pirates, one of the two swordsmen, and one of the senior officers of the Straw Hat Grand Fleet. As master of the three-sword style, a fencing style he created during his childhood training in Shimotsuki Village, Zoro is among the three most powerful fighters in the Straw Hats, alongside Luffy and Sanji. His dream is to become the greatest swordsman in the world, in order to honor a promise he made to his late childhood friend, Kuina. In addition to his infamy as one of the Straw Hats and as a former bounty hunter, Zoro is also considered one of the 12 pirates who are referred to as the worst generation. He first earned a bounty of 60 million after the Alabasta arc. It later increased to 120 million after the attack of Enies Lobby, then to 320 million after the Dressrosa arc. After the attack on Onigashima, his bounty was increased to 1. Zoro is an extremely skilled swordsman, training at the Enshin Dojo in Shimotsuki Village as a child. He was able to defeat adult swordsmen in duels consistently, with Kuina being the only person he could not beat. Now, after reaching adulthood, he became a Grand Master swordsman, famous for wielding 3 swords at the same time in battle. His goal is to become the strongest swordsman in the world. Zoro dedicated himself to this craft and is well known throughout the world for his swordsmanship. Zoro confronted the strongest swordsman in the world, Dracula Mihawk, 2 years ago in East Blue. He was totally outclassed and even overpowered by Mihawk's Kokatana. However, Mihawk was impressed with his conviction and left him alive, believing that Zoro would continue to get stronger and one day reach the top. Several months later, Zoro would train with Mihawk for 2 years and further increase his skills exponentially. Although Zoro usually wields 3 swords as part of his style known as the 3-sword style, he's proved to be an exceptional duelist and fighter when wielding 2 swords. Several of Zoro's final moves involve the use only of 1 sword to execute a powerful blow. Zoro has defeated several opponents using the 1-sword style, with one notable example when he decapitated the large and tough number 13 dragon with a single blow to his neck. Zoro's fencing style incorporates his tremendous physical strength to overpower opponents and cause significant damage with his sword strikes, aided by the quality of his swords he currently possesses. He was noted in the thriller Bark for having destructive power similar to that of the legendary swordsman Ryoma, whose corpse he was dueling evenly. Zoro has enough power to launch flying slashes to cut and damage objects beyond his normal range. When plunged into a hole by Fujitora, Zoro was able to send a slash to travel through the ground towards the Admiral. With his destructive power and flying slashes, Zoro was able to cut through entire buildings and other large structures, including Pika's giant stone golem, which towered above all other structures. After receiving the powerful Enma sword, Zoro unintentionally cut down an entire piece of the coastal cliff while trying to cut down a tree. When he returned to Sabati Archipelago after the time skip, Zoro was able to destroy a giant galleon by himself. During his duels, especially when wielding all 3 swords, Zoro often defeats his opponents by charging at them and cutting them down with a single attack, rather than being able to find openings to attack them in the middle of a duel. He also used his strength to gain an advantage in stalemate confrontations and knock his opponent down. While his strength plays an important role in his sword fighting skills, Zoro is also capable of performing extremely precise slashes. At Whiskey Peak, he was able to split Mr. Five's explosive melee in midair, causing its 2 halves to fly to his and Vivi's sides and explode. On the way to Enies Lobby, Zoro was able to split a sea train carriage lengthwise with a single cut. Zoro's precision skills allows him to use his swords to block projectiles, even a quick series of them, such as Kabaji's Piayons and Kaku's Renkyaku slashes. Notably, in Wano, he was able to stop a flying arrow by intercepting it with the flat side of his sword blade. And later, He used one of the swords to deflect bullets fired by Korozumi Orochi. With two swords, he can block and repel a King's Beak attack after the All-Star assumed his huge Pteranodon form. Zoro cuts objects even at small limits, including freeing himself from his rope bindings in Shellstown and cutting the chimney he was trapped in at Water 7. Zoro's also showed enough skill to unleash slashes on his opponents and objects while in air, including defeating Ryuma and Pika while moving high above the ground at great speed. Several times, Zoro was able to fight and defeat large groups of opponents on his own. His most notable achievement in this field being he single-handedly defeated a group of 100 bounty hunters from Baroque Works, a powerful criminal organization. 2 weeks later, on Kuregana Island, he managed to fight off and eventually defeat a large horde of human drills, giant apes, and advanced battle skills and inhuman durability, despite having suffered severe injuries before reaching the island. Even Dracula Mihawk himself was surprised to learn that the human drills had been defeated. Though quite skilled at dealing with attacks from multiple opponents simultaneously, Zoro cannot always maintain it, especially if his opponents are skilled on their own, as shown in Wano when Gyuki Maru's sudden attack distracted Zoro enough to allow Kamazo to attack him. Several times, Zoro has been shown to have an animalistic spirit that occasionally manifests itself around him when he's preparing an attack. This aura has not been indicated as a result of any kind of haki. Instead, it's noted primarily as a manifestation of Zoro's killing intent and tremendous power. Even Kaku, a CP9 agent with superhuman abilities, was able to sense much of this spirit from Zoro. Notably, during his duel with Ryuma, Zoro's final blow possessed the aura of a dragon, and after the cut was made, the wound was set on fire. How this happened is uncertain. Zoro gained the ability to cut through steel while fighting Mr. One in Alabasta. After being severely wounded by Mr. One, Zoro began to listen to the breathing of his own sword, gaining a special affinity with it that allowed him to control its cutting power. By achieving this ability, Zoro was able to cut through Mr. One's steel body and defeat him with a single blow. Since then, he's had no problem cutting through metal, as shown when he split the Sea Train's wagon and later cut 2 of Hayuzo's swords, as well as Goki's large metal club with ease. Since the Frankie family, he used his 3 swords to split at least 7 iron cannonballs flying towards them at once before proceeding to split the entire cannon. Canonically, of course. Together with Kinemon, he was able to cut through a giant iron Venetian that was immune to bazookas, with 1 blow to enter Caesar Clown's laboratory. Before the time skip, Zoro was only able to leave small cuts in the pass of his special metal exoskeleton, but 2 years later, he was able to do enough damage to his entire body with a single strike. After the time skip, Zoro also demonstrated the ability to use other types of blades to complement or even fully execute his attacks. As a Ronin in Wano, he was able to cut through part of an entire building several meters away from him with just 1 blade, both handless and knife-like, intended to be used to commit seppuku. Later, after losing Shisui, he incorporated a large scythe into his 3-sword style, and later was able to use it to defeat Kamazo. Despite apparently losing the vision in his left eye during the time skip, this has yet to be shown as a problem for Zoro in any of his battles. During the raid on Onigashima, Zoro was also shown to be able to replicate the sword styles of other swordsmen through observation alone, being able to almost perfectly replicate the Firefox style without prior instruction. Currently, Zoro is known to have owned 7 swords, all of which are katanas, and for a brief period, borrowed various other swords and weapons when needed. Because of his 3-sword style, he possesses 3 swords at all times. These are the swords that Zoro currently owns. Wado Ichimonji, one of the 21 Great Meto Degrees, forged by the legendary Wano blacksmith Shimotsuki Kozaburo, and formerly owned by his granddaughter and Zoro's friend, Kuina, to Zoro 11 years ago by Kuina's father, Koyushiro, after her untimely death. The only one of Zoro's swords that didn't break when Zoro first collided with Mihawk's supreme grade sword, Yoro. The second is Sadai Keretsu, a Mito grade. It's said to be cursed and will bring great misfortune to its owner, forged by the great Wano blacksmith, Kazuki Sukiyaki, and given to Zoro 2 years ago in Logtown by the arms dealer Ippamatsu. Lastly, Inma, one of the 21 Great Degrees Meto, also forged by Shimotsuki Kozaburo, and originally wielded by the legendary samurai Kazuki Oden. Oden's daughter, Kazuki Hiyori, who inherited Inma, gave it to Zoro under the promise that he would return Shisui to Ryuma's grave. Until Onigashima's attack in the Wano country arc, it was one of the 2 swords to cut Kaido from the 4 emperors and give him his only scar. Inma has a special feature of extracting large amounts of Bososhoku Haki from the wearer, but if one of Zoro's swords could gain an Akuma no Mi, it'd be quite interesting if it was something related to the original power thought by Oda himself for the character. The fruits of Zoro and Sanji are not so directly connected to their characters by Oda's own decision, Zoro would receive Kaido's mythical fish fruit, which allows the user to transform into a dragon. The reason why Zoro and Sanji's fruits are less than an ideal match for them comes down to the characters' innate power levels. Both are already superlative fighters, so they don't really need an extra power that an Akuma no Mi would bring. In justifying his choice for Zoro's fruit, Oda says that the fruit wouldn't even be for Zoro, but for his sword, since it would be cool if his sword could turn into a dragon. This is probably the reason why Oda didn't assign a fruit to Jinbei, who's the last straw hat without having a fruit. It's unlikely that Zoro would gain an Akuma no Mi at this point in the league, but it'd be cool to see the character gain that power that Oda had originally thought of for him, or considered the possibility. But what about you? Do you think this would be the perfect fruit, or could it be different? Leave your opinion in the comments. We'd love to hear it. That's it, my Straw Hat Pirate. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any suggestions for a future video, don't forget to comment below, because I'll be reading them all, as I always do. Also, don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Be sure to subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss out on any content from your pirate crew.